Welcome everybody to the Chuck
and Low Show.
How's everybody doing? We hope you guys are doing and having a great week this week.
Yeah, we do. This week kind of dragged by. It's like the longest week. I think what made it so long was because it was the first week without some days off, like a full 5 days work week for me especially. So I'm happy it's Friday. I'm thankful for that.
Yes, we are currently getting ready for the G3 that's coming up next week. Really excited to see those speakers and take notes and gather as much information and books and things of that sort.
Yeah, Chuck will be heading down there, and it looks like we'll have to put the pause on next week's podcast because he'll be so occupied. Just as he said, soaking up some knowledge and being taught by some amazing preachers who we've looked up to and admired for so long. So that's gonna be incredible. So again, just be mindful that next week there won't be a podcast episode. All right, so we've got a lot to dig into today. Today's going to be a little bit different than normal. Today's going to be about an event, or not even an event, I don't want to say that, but about a opportunity that Chuck had to minister to some former inmates. And it was just a beautiful experience, and I just wanted to kind of just ask him some questions about that and have him share a bit of what happened during the process. So without further ado, we can get right to it. So I guess honestly, when I guess honestly, Chuck, you should take it off. Start off and kind of, I guess. So tell us how this opportunity, who it was with, and how it even unfolded.
I guess okay. So start from the beginning. I started filling out paperwork and sending out emails to get involved with some prison ministries around Arizona. And one of them called me back, and their name is Alongside Ministries. They're located in Phoenix, and I went to a meeting, and there's a lot of Christian brothers and sisters from Redeemer Bible Church in Chandler, I believe, that was there. I was representing our church, and there were some more people from different churches. But long story short, I went to the meeting. It was like an hour and a half long. Got introduced to some ex-inmates and their the staff there, and got to learn a little bit about the state of Arizona, the recidivism rates, what inmates have, what they have to look forward to when they come home, and just some other information. And I like what they were doing, and I wanted to be a part of what they have going on. And so I stayed back and I talked to a gentleman named Mike, and he took my number and my email and he contacted me. And about a couple weeks later, he asked me if I would be interested in leading Bible study for their dinner that they have on Wednesdays. And I said, sure, I would. That's not a problem.
Prayerfully,
I prayed about it, and
sought counsel from your pastor.
I got help from my pastor and guidance from him, and he gave me some insight and some help on what I should teach about and how to close the gaps in what you call a sermon. But I went in there on Wednesday, and instead of it being a small crowd, it ended up being 45, about between 45 and 50 men. More or less, it was more ex-inmates, and then there was me. I brought my son with me. There was a gentleman there with his daughter. We had fellowship. Fellowship included, they had like a chili with sour cream and all the fixings, onions and cheese. Then they had praise and worship, and where they did 2 songs, and we all sung 2 songs. And then I was introduced, and I was put on the front of the stage on what I was going to be teaching about. And I just started off with a brief introduction of myself, and I went straight forward. So
Awesome. That's incredible. How many inmates did you say it was again?
between 45 and 50.
Nice. So did you was it like a Q&A sort of session or
I mean, we had some questions and answers. Because it was a lot of people, but we were all together. So it was like we was conversing back and forth on different scriptures and their time in prison and what they did when they came home, how much time they served, things they did on the inside to keep their sanity, etc., etc.
That's incredible. Wow. So was everyone there saved or was it I mean, did you hear their stories? Were they saved prior to going to prison, which I don't know, if they were or if this was something that happened. I don't know. What was the feedback on that?
Some of them said they were saved. I'm just gonna put it out there. I don't know who's all saved and who isn't saved. Because I'm not God and I don't know their heart. So they might have said they were. I pray they are. A lot of them got converted in prison, and a lot of them were a lot of them are home now, and they're learning more about the gospel. Alongside Ministries has a program that they have to complete while they're there.
I understand. I see. That's pretty interesting, though. So, how about the inmates? Like personally, were any of them like newly released or anything like that?
Yes, there's a brother there that he was released the night before. His original sentence was life without the possibility of parole. He got it reduced down to 10.5 years, and like I said, he was released the night before. So that was like his actual first homemade meal, so to speak.
Wow. So, what about his story? What did he share with you? I mean, so was he saved? What was the message that your sermon was about?
The message my sermon was about, I was going to get into that later on. We talked about raising our children according to God's word.
Oh yeah. So that something that he really felt like. Well, not just him, but all of them. They feel like it was. Or did it resonate with them?
Yes, because a lot of them didn't have relationships with their children prior to going to prison. A lot of them gained relationships with their children while they was in prison. Some of them didn't gain relationships with their children until they was outside of prison. And I believe the reason why some of them didn't pursue having a relationship because of the fear factor. What I mean by that is, just not being around your children, and they change, you change, and you don't know if they have any anger towards you, resentment. You don't know how they feel about you. So instead of tackling it head on, they kind of ran from it.
Yeah, I can see how that happened. I didn't know you were going to get to the point of talking about your about what your sermon was about. I'm so sorry to jump into that. So I guess now we could just kind of go into that. Like you can give us maybe an overview of what you talked about.
Just to.
What scriptures maybe you touched on and kind of how your speech went with them, and then what kind of questions they had, if any. I'm super curious to hear what they asked you and how you responded.
The sermon was, like I said, raising our children according to God's word. I gave one Bible verse I read from was Proverbs 22:6, and that was to train up a child in the way he should go, even when he is old, he will not depart from it.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And the reason I chose that verse is because when you're incarcerated, it's hard to really raise your child accordingly from behind bars.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit? Like, what do you mean? I can only imagine that it's hard, but as living through it, what made it what was the hard part about it? What was one of the hard parts, I guess?
The hardest part about it was just not being there physically.
Mm-hmm.
I know for me, it was plenty of times I would call home and the children might have had a bad day at school, and I couldn't actually be there physically to comfort them and talk to them and give them the proper guidance that they need because I was so far away from them. I can say what I want over the phone, but being there is a lot different because I'm hands on.
Sure, you definitely are a hands-on dad. That's for sure. Wow.
And just being away from them, it's this world, and this world that can easily grab a hold of them if they're not trained up in the word.
Right. That's definitely an interesting point you just made there. I mean, 'cause you can only do, like you said, so much from the phone. Sometimes it's the presence that they need, and if they're having a bad day, just the physical presence of their dad who can, pray with them and love them and hold them when they definitely need it. Um, does anyone say that they felt encouraged, like afterwards, to maybe start a relationship with their kids or pursue one?
There was a couple of them that said they're gonna try to do better, um, due to what I read to them and gave them a little bit about my story. And there was actually one guy there that he didn't have a relationship with his daughter before and during before his sins and during his sins. He didn't have a relationship with his daughter, and um, he left when she was little. He came back. She was older, almost grown, and he actually had her there at the Bible study.
Wow, that's incredible. Wow. Did you get to speak to the daughter?
Yeah, she spoke a little bit about her story with her dad and how she's now she moved from like a different part of Arizona to the Phoenix area to get closer to her dad. And since he was like a part of the ministry, that kind of brought her closer to learning more about Christ.
Mm, that's incredible. So, how often does this alongside ministry do this? And is this like the only thing that they really focus on, or do they go out to the other places? Or I mean, because the former inmates, none of them were required to come there, right?
No,
That was
they
all
go
by
yeah, they
choice.
go through um a strict process. So alongside ministries go to every prison in Arizona, including the one and only women's prison, and they have a woman over that, of course. So while they're in prison, they have to fill out an application. The inmates have to fill out an application. Alongside ministry get it. They go through it because they have plenty of people who fill out applications, and they're not who they say they are in the applications. So the process has become strenuous, and the process includes a 1 to 3 hour interview while they're incarcerated. They can only get interviewed when they have 6 months or less. 6 months or less left on their sentence.
Mm.
They have to be drug free, substance free.
Substance abuse free.
Yeah, they have to be that, and there was one more requirement, and they wanted to change their overall life, and they had to be sincere about it. I mean, like you can only imagine because they get so many applications.
Yeah, so it's probably got to be a good screening sort of process so people aren't just coming in. Because unfortunately, it happens and people are not trying to do the right thing. And it can get a little chaotic and crazy. And then those kind of programs can get shut down or all that stuff. And I mean, it's been a blessing, I'm sure, to so many inmates. It'd be unfortunate if it ever led to that. So I think I kind of like the idea that they go through a process like that. I had no idea that even happened that way.
Yeah, because from prison they come home, they pick them up from prison, or they have their mentors. Because Alongside Ministry has mentors that can go inside prison and talk to them while they're there, and then when they come home, it's the mentors' responsibility to pick them up from prison and make sure they get from prison to Alongside Ministries. And Alongside Ministries have about 12 two-bedroom apartments like right there by the offices, and then the land around it they have about 20 homes where
Wow.
once they graduate the program they they can stay there long term in the homes on the property to ensure that they stay on their feet. Alongside helps them get their license, help them get out of debt, help them with their child support cases or paternity cases, or they're the counselors. They help them get back and forth to church. They feed them. They have drives where they have clothes for them. I mean, they do a lot. They do a lot from what I've seen. They do a lot more than what they do back home.
Oh, in Indy.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you weren't involved in like all the ministries, so who knows if there was any good ones out there. But
Yeah, because I done heard some horror stories about halfway homes. You know how they are drug infested and people are bringing drugs in and out, selling drugs, doing drugs, and it's a hard environment to be placed in as soon as you get out of prison, because we know with parole officer, probation officer, it's like zero tolerance.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think it's just such a blessing that for someone who experienced it like yourself, you were willing to go in there and really get involved with people. That's incredible. We love to ask you guys to keep Alongside Ministries in your prayers as they try to spread the word and encourage former men and women who have been incarcerated. Just pray for them. Pray that God's truth is spread throughout the program. That they don't waver on it, and that it just remains true. That they remain true to God's word for sure. So and pray for Charles as well for opportunities for him, if the Lord wills it, to use him in any way in this ministry. So yeah.
Yeah, because it's more than enough help needed. Just interesting facts for the state of Arizona. There's 42,000 inmates. It cost Arizona taxpayers $35,000 a year per inmate. The recidivism rate, meaning the ones that get out of prison and go back, is 7 out of 10. And here's the thing that I love about Alongside Ministries: 92% of the graduates that come out of their program don't return to prison.
Wow.
This isn't a forced ministry on inmates. This is strictly volunteer.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Look at those numbers. Wow.
Yeah.
That's good to hear, because that's like you were saying, like you don't usually hear that.
No, not a success rate like that, but you got to think it's successful because they have Jesus as the head of it.
That's very true. And they're not just saying they have it, but actually literally having Jesus as the focus, as what we're focusing on, as what we're fixing our minds on. I love to hear that. That's amazing. Wow, look at those statistics. And I know they're going to keep changing, and the statistics are going to continue to increase and become better, as long as they stay on that path and keep God at the forefront. So
Yes, most definitely.
wow, that's amazing. What else do you have to share? Anything?
Yeah, just like I shared with the with the men there, just gave them some insight and numbers. I'm a numbers and statistic kind of guy, and I want to make sure that everybody understands that the reason I talked about just one of them was Proverbs 22:6 was because of how children are being raised without the proper guidance in their home. A lot of children watch a lot of TV. They on their cell phones, and they learning worldly things from their classmates. The TV shows nowadays are so bold with pushing the agenda, their agenda off on children. It's really just crazy that 10.2% of the shows show the lives of LGBTQ communities. 61% of prime TV shows the act of violence.
Wow.
The average child has seen 8,000 murders on TV by the time they graduate elementary school. By the age of 18, the average American has seen 200,000 acts of violence, including 40,000 murders. What this is causing, the problems that this is causing in our homes and for our children, it's causing our children to have poor grades. They're experiencing sleeping problems, Their behavioral problems at home and at school, and obesity. The obesity rates, all those are skyrocketing right now. Cell phones is another distraction that's raising our children. Tablets or what have you. I don't know how many times I see kids in the store with cell phones or tablets because the parents is just like, here, you know.
Yeah, it just kind of pacifies them. I was thinking about too the other day, just seeing people like it always bothers me whenever I see parents talking to their kids, or their kids rather talking to them, and their faces are in the phone, like they don't even make eye contact. I'm always wondering. Well, I'm like, come on, just look at your kid, please. Like, show them that you're involved and that you're focused. And I'm not gonna, shame any parent that does that because that's not my intention. I don't, it could be an emergency message or whatever happening. I don't know what's happening all the time, but I see that so constantly. I always just wonder, like, because I used to do that. It was terrible. My kids would talk to me and I'd be plastered to my phone. And I remember this was a while ago, a few years ago, but I remember like seeing it done, and I was like, it just like hit me, it's, like convicted me. I was like, oh, this is awful. This is what it looks like. So I don't know. That's my little soapbox there.
Yeah, and even with that, with the cell phones and things like that, it's 37% of the teens are receiving links for sexually explicit content. And I say all that to say this is that our children are being exposed to the murders, the violence, the sex, the homosexual community, things of that sort, and it's getting watered down so much that our children are thinking that these things are okay. Um, they're not able to process what's real from fake. Um, that's why you have a lot of kids nowadays who are grabbing guns and their first instinct is to shoot somebody or to hurt them or to rob them or to steal because they see all these things on TV, and it plays a major factor on their brains and their thought process.
I can absolutely see that. That's incredible. And these former inmates, and well, you know what? I don't want to keep labeling them. They need to hear that, though. I'm sure that was effective for them. That's incredible. Wow, that sounds like an amazing experience. I might have to come next time.
Yeah, I mean, because it's just like it's an ongoing cycle. Not for everybody, but for some. Um, I know when I was incarcerated, I was incarcerated with people who was father and son or nephew and uncle and cousins, and there's a lot of people that was in there that was related, and it's just an ongoing cycle. And it's like if you don't grab a hold of the youth now while they're young and give them the gospel, then it's like they fall victim to what they see on TV and what they see in other people doing.
That's incredible. Wow. Well, thanks for sharing that. I mean, I really, really wanted what you did and how your process or how your experience went with this alongside ministries group to be shared with others because I just feel like it's really good and it's a good thing, and I'm glad it gets all the glory throughout all of this. So I mean, I don't know if you have more you want to share, but I'm just thank you for sharing that.
No problem. Last but not least is I just gave them three steps that they can share with their children, not just share with them through talking to them, but just share with them through modeling. Be a model for them. Be a model for them. And what I mean by that is if if the gentleman there were married like I am, it's always great for the children to see their parents having a healthy dialogue if they or a healthy disagreement, or and just a model for them. That they see you putting God first, or you don't have a love for the world, you have a love for Christ and Christ only. Um, and the second step I have for them was to teach them, Proverbs 22:6, or you look at 2 Timothy 1:5 with Timothy's grandmother Lois. And the third thing I have for them was pray for them, how Paul prayed for the church, or how Hannah giving Samuel to God. And that's what I shared with them. And I gave them all the Bible verses I had. And I told them to study them efficiently and learn them and hold it in their heart. That way they're able to teach their children and so forth.
That's amazing. Awesome. And that was a blessing as well, I'm sure. Being able to share that piece. And I'm sure the men were blessed by that. You giving them those tips at the end. Thank you so much, Chuck.
Oh, no problem, no problem. I pray that they call again. I mean, from what they told me and what they was sharing with me, they enjoyed it, and pray that I come back soon. And I have a gentleman there supposed to reach out so I can help him with his applications and his resume, because being gone a long time, they're really not computer savvy. So some of them aren't, but they do have classes and stuff like that. But
that's awesome. Yeah, man. Thank you. So nice to see you being used. Praise the Lord.
not a problem. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed every minute of it, and
God gets the glory.
yes, he does. And I look forward to doing it again. So, you want to say anything else, Miss Lowe?
No, I'm actually good. Short and sweet, and hopefully edifying for others. And just remember, we won't be here next week, but we'll be back the week after. So thank you so much.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Chuck and
Low Show.
Thank you. Have a blessed week.
Weekend.
Yeah, weekend.